There is a number that almost nobody outside of government circles thinks about, and it explains more about the modern world than most of the headlines you will ever read. Of every weapon sold across a border on this planet, roughly 4 out of every 10 were built in the United States. Not 4 out of 10 among Western nations. 4 out of 10 on Earth. America sells more weapons to more countries than any nation alive today. By the end of this, you will see exactly how that happened and why it hands the United States a grip on the rest of the world that no rival has managed to break. To put that in scale, the United States exports more arms than the next 10 countries on the list combined. Russia, France, China, Germany, every name you would expect, added together, still come up short. This is not a story about armies marching, or carriers steaming, or bases on distant coastlines. You have seen those images 100 times. This is the story underneath them. It is the story of the factories, the shipyards and the assembly lines and the foundries that run day and night, and what flows out of their gates and onto the rest of the world. Because somewhere along the way, almost without announcing it, the United States became something history has rarely seen. Not just a military power, the armory for half the world. This is how that happened, what it buys and what it costs. Start with the money, because the money tells you everything. In a typical year, the United States moves somewhere north of $200 billion in foreign military sales, not domestic defense spending, not its own budget. This is the value of American weapons sold to other governments. That figure swings year to year, and the way it is counted varies between agreements signed and equipment delivered. But the direction has been consistent for a long time, and lately it has only pointed up. Now, a number that large is hard to feel. So look at it a different way. Look at the customers. Because the list of who buys American weapons is, in effect, a map of American strategy. Tell me what a country flies and what it fires, and I can tell you which side of the table it sits on. Look at the Persian Gulf, where Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Kuwait have spent decades buying American aircraft, missiles, and air defense. Look at Israel, one of the closest and most consistent recipients of American military hardware anywhere in the world. Look across the Pacific, where Japan, South Korea, Australia, and Taiwan field American fighters, American ships, and American interceptors aimed squarely at the same set of concerns. Look at Europe, where most of NATO flies American planes, and where the alliance is built around the assumption that American and Allied equipment can fight side by side. And since 2022, look at Ukraine, where the contents of American arsenals have been moving east at a pace nobody planned for, reshaping the entire conversation about what the United States makes and how fast it can make it. Add all of that together and a picture forms. American weapons are not scattered randomly across the globe. They cluster, deliberately, along the lines where the United States wants influence. Every sale is a thread, and the threads pull in one direction. That is the scale. Now look at the single program that captures all of it in one airframe. If you want to understand American arms exports through one machine, you look up and you look at the F-35. On paper, it is a fighter jet. A stealth aircraft, the most advanced and most expensive combat aircraft program the United States has ever fielded. But calling the F-35 just a fighter misses the entire point of it. The F-35 is not only America's plane. It is a global program. More than a dozen allied nations have bought into it, fly it, or are lined up to receive it. Britain flies it. Australia, Japan, Israel, Italy, Norway, the Netherlands, and a growing list of others fly it or soon will. Walk down a flight line in any of those countries and you are looking at an American design, full of American systems, sustained by an American supply chain. And that supply chain is the real story. When a country buys the F-35, it is not buying a car. It can park in a garage and forget. It is buying into decades of spare parts, software updates, mission data, and maintenance that run back through the United States. Think about what that means. An Allied Air Force that flies the F-35 is, in a very real sense, tied to American factories for the entire life of the aircraft. 20, 30, 40 years of dependence, written into the airplane itself. That is leverage you cannot buy any other way. It is not a single transaction. It is a relationship with no easy exit. Now multiply that across every nation in the program. a dozen plus air forces, all flying the same American jet, all drawing from the same well, all standardized to fight together and to keep coming back. The F-35 is what an arms export looks like when it stops being a product and becomes an entire ecosystem. And to understand how a machine like that even moves from an American factory to a foreign runway, you have to understand the system behind it. A foreign government cannot simply call up a defense company and place an order. The most powerful weapons on Earth do not move that casually. There is a system, and it has a name. It is called foreign military sales. Here is roughly how it works. It begins with a request. A partner nation decides it wants something, a fighter, a missile system, a fleet of armored vehicles, and it formally asks the United States. That request does not go straight to a factory. It goes into the government. The State Department weighs it against American foreign policy, asking whether this sale fits the relationship and the strategy. The Pentagon weighs it against military judgment, asking whether the technology should leave American hands and how it should be supported. In the United States, Congress can be notified of the largest sales, and lawmakers have a window to raise objections before a deal moves forward. The decision to arm another country is treated, by design, as an act of policy, not just commerce. Only once it clears that process does the order reach the companies that actually build the hardware. And those names you already know. Lockheed Martin, which builds the F-35 and a great deal more. Raytheon, whose missiles and radars fill arsenals around the world. Boeing, which builds aircraft and weapons across the spectrum. General Dynamics, which builds the tanks, the submarines, and the ships. These are among the largest defense contractors on Earth, and a substantial share of their work flows to foreign customers through this exact pipeline. So follow the chain one more time, because it matters. The partner asks. The State Department and the Pentagon approve. Congress is notified. And then the foundries and the shipyards and the assembly lines go to work. That is the machinery behind the machinery. The question worth asking is why the United States built it this way at all. A country does not sell weapons on this scale just to make money, although the money is real. It sells them because weapons are one of the most powerful tools of influence ever invented. The first reason is leverage. When you arm a nation, you gain a say in how that nation defends itself and a window into how it fights. The supplier holds something the buyer needs, not once but continuously, across every spare part and every upgrade for decades. The second reason is interoperability, and it is the quiet center of the whole strategy. When allied militaries fly the same aircraft, fire the same missiles, and speak the same technical language, they can fight as one force instead of many. Picture a coalition where every air force uses compatible systems. Their jets refuel from the same tankers. Their munitions spit the same racks. Their networks talk to each other without translation. That is not an accident. That is the product of decades of deliberate sales. And this is the real return on American arms exports. Each sale turns a customer into a partner. And enough partners, standardized and connected, turn into something larger, a network. That network is the thing no rival can easily copy. China can build excellent weapons. Russia can sell them cheaply. But neither commands a web of allies trained, equipped, and integrated around their hardware the way the United States does. That is the strategy in one sentence. America does not just sell weapons. It sells membership in a system, and the system is the point. But a strategy this large, run for this long, does not come without a darker side, and any honest account has to face it. Here is the part that does not fit neatly on a recruiting poster. When you flood the world with weapons, you lose some control over where they end up. Equipment sold to one government can find its way into a conflict it was never meant for. Arms supplied for defense can be turned on civilians. Hardware handed to a partner in one decade can outlive that partnership and fall into very different hands in the next. This is not hypothetical. Again and again, weapons built in American factories have surfaced in places and in wars that no one signing the original deal intended. And then there is the harder question, the one underneath all the others. Where is the line between a strategic partner and a regime you should not be arming at all? Some American customers are stable democracies. Others are governments with deeply troubling records, kept close because geography, or oil, or a shared rival made them useful. Selling weapons to a partner can buy stability. It can also tie the United States to actions it would rather not own. Every one of these sales is a bet that the influence gained is worth the risk taken. Sometimes that bet has held. Sometimes it has not, and the consequences have shown up in civilian casualties, in regional arms races, and in weapons that long outlasted the reasons they were sold. None of this erases the strategy. But it is the cost written in the same ledger as the benefit, and a serious look at the American arsenal has to hold both at once. That tension has always been part of the business. What has changed recently is the sheer size of the business itself. For a long stretch, the arms trade moved at a steady, almost predictable pace. Then 2022 reset everything. Russia's invasion of Ukraine did more than start a war in Europe. It ended an era of assumptions. Countries that had spent decades trimming their militaries suddenly remembered why they had them. Watch what followed. Across Europe, nations began rearming at a pace not seen in generations. Defense budgets that had drifted downward for years were torn up and rewritten upward fast, and a great deal of that new spending pointed straight at American suppliers because American factories already made what they urgently needed. In the Pacific, a parallel buildup. Nation after nation, watching China's military grow, began stockpiling. Missiles, aircraft, ships, the kind of inventory you build when you are preparing for the possibility of a long fight, not a short one. And running underneath all of it, Ukraine itself, consuming weapons and ammunition at a rate that exposed just how thin modern stockpiles had become and how hard they are to refill. Put those forces together, Europe rearming, the Pacific stockpiling, and alive war-draining arsenals by the day, and you arrive at the present moment. Demand for American weapons is running at roughly its highest level in decades. The factories you have been picturing throughout this story are not winding down. They are being asked to do more, faster, than they have in a very long time, and that brings us back to where we started. So here is what to carry out of this. When you think about American military power, do not stop at the carriers and the bases and the famous names. Those are the visible edge of something much larger and much quieter. Think instead about the factories. The shipyards running double shifts. The foundries pouring steel. The assembly lines turning out aircraft and missiles and vehicles, not only for the United States, but for a long roster of nations that depend on them. Because that is the part most people miss. The true reach of the American war machine is not measured only in its own forces. It is measured in everyone else's, in every allied jet, every partner's missile, every foreign arsenal stamped somewhere, made in America. Roughly 4 out of every 10 weapons crossing a border on this planet started in an American factory. More than the next 10 nations combined. Somewhere along the way, without ever quite saying it out loud, the United States became the armory for half the world. The hardware is the easy part to see. The system behind it is the real machine. And that machine is only running harder. War Machine takes apart the system behind American power, one piece at a time. Subscribe, and we will keep following the machine. Next time, America versus China, the one rivalry the entire arsenal was built around.